Hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast, Welcome to Livingstone, where we invite local businesses, people, and organizations in to talk about what they are giving to our community. My name is Don Patella.
And I'm Angela Patella, and we're with the Patella Group Real Estate Professionals. As realtors and brokerage owners, we bring valuable insight into the local market and community every week.
Thanks for listening, and welcome to Livingstone. Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Welcome to Livingstone podcast. My name is Don Patella.
And I'm Angela Patella, and we're with the Patella Group Real Estate Professionals.
Yeah, and we are super excited about today's show featuring another great business in Livingston County. But before we get started, I just wanted to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Jim Paquette with Lake Michigan Credit Union. So today's episode of the Welcome to Livingston podcast is brought to you by our valued sponsor, Jim Paquette with Lake Michigan Credit Union. He is a trusted mortgage lender who has lived and worked in our community for many years. Jim Paquette is dedicated to helping our neighbors achieve their homeownership dreams and is proud to support the local businesses that make our area special. So, just a great partner to partner up with, knows a lot about the business, has been doing it a long time.
Absolutely. I trust him implicitly, and that's why we recommend him to our buyers so often.
Yes.
Or even, sellers that are looking to refinance as interest rates end up going down.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we are super excited about today's show today. Today we have with us Bentley Folse from HH Renovations. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. Looking forward to this.
Awesome. This is so exciting. And Jason Tracy, we've been on his show. He's been on yours, and he recommended you. And now I'm really interested to find out more about HH Renovations and what you do. So do you want to let us know a little bit about what this company is?
Sure. Yeah, HH Renovations, we do a lot of remodels in the area, not excluded to Livingston County, but increasing our presence here is the goal. Right.
And you're based out of here.
Here.
You're Livingston County.
Yep. I basically live right here, right next to downtown. And I've been in Livingston County for 10 years now.
Wonderful.
Came from Colorado, and just looking to grow the business here.
Yeah, isn't it a great place, though? I mean, everybody supports local, and we love that.
It's charming.
Yes. So renovations, how did you get into home remodeling then?
Okay, that's a good question. I started with, just carpentry, turned into a handyman business. And when I was doing that, I realized I kind of liked the bigger, dramatic changes, the before and afters. One thing led to another, started doing more of those, but being called a handyman, it was difficult to be taken seriously by some potential clients. So kind of rebranded and just put together a good team, and here we are.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That is so nice. So to get into it a little bit, so what kind of, do you have like an area you specialize in, or what kind of remodeling are we talking here?
Lots of baths and kitchens.
Okay.
Some basements, some smaller woodwork projects, but that's the extent of it. I prefer kitchens, but really we're doing mostly baths these days.
Right.
And all of those actually, in terms of the real estate hat we wear sometimes, the resale on that is huge. And then when someone can get it renovated, that gives them the opportunity to really enjoy it long before, but then still invest in their home.
For sure. And I think most people know that. By the time they get a hold of us, they're aware that it's going to pay off in the end.
Exactly. Yeah. But with remodels, especially if we're talking kitchens, but even bathrooms and such, a lot of people are like, hey, I want to freshen this up, or I want to go a different direction, but they have no idea where to start. So, how does that process work when you're sitting down with someone? They're like, hey, I don't like what I have. I want something new.
So I work closely with the designer, and she plans everything, holds their hand through the process essentially, and makes them feel at ease. She'll also procure everything, and then once the design is put into place, then it's just a matter of making it happen.
Great. Now, how long does the design phase usually last? Is it a lot of back and forth?
Can be.
Okay.
Yeah, that varies. I'd say if we're just talking about simple design for a normal bath, a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about ordering stuff and it's a bigger project and maybe hard to get, supply line issues, then it could, a month. If it's a big project and we're waiting on cabinets, it could take 6 weeks. So it just every project's a little different.
Right. No, I can imagine that. It's funny, we go through houses with people when they're going to buy it and such, and we talk about, oh, you could change this or you could change that. And it's always a question of like, can this wall come down? Those are like the big questions you get. I'm sure when you're doing kitchens, sometimes that's the big question.
For sure. Yeah. And if that means we got to hop in the attic to look at the structure or whatever the case is, there's always those challenges and possibly surprises, but yeah, we deal with that.
Right. Well, I can imagine some of the surprises that you don't know what is behind a wall till you open a wall up.
Yes, and I've done my best to mitigate that and not promise or not overpromise anything early on, and just explain to the client, we don't know. I can't see through the wall, so
right.
We'll have to see what we're getting into.
Yep.
But we can make an educated guess.
Right.
I've experienced enough to know, all right, so worst case scenario, there's subfloor is rotten, or maybe there's plumbing in that wall or in that soffit, so maybe we can't take it down, or we got to really shuffle a lot of plumbing around, so there's added cost with that.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm sure those shows that everybody watch really affects the way people think about what you do.
In a negative way. Unrealistic is the word that pops into my mind, but I used to enjoy those shows, and there's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, time frame, that's another thing. We try to be pretty transparent and as accurate as possible with time frame expectations,
right?
Because nothing's going to happen in a week.
Well,
right.
exactly.
Moving target.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was at the dentist the other day and they had one of those renovation shows on in the background, so I'm watching it and such. And they're talking about this huge remodel that they're doing. Like they're moving walls, they're moving where the kitchen is and everything. And they're like, and we have a 28-day window to get this done. I'm like, that doesn't happen.
Well, if you have a whole crew,
yeah,
full
they
of
don't
people,
show the 100 people that are working in the house on the show.
Yeah, and it's just. It's kind of comical, but it is kind of neat to see what goes on behind the scenes for people that don't do what I do. I imagine it's pretty cool to see, oh, wow, so that's what it looks like when it's the old cabinets are out and the new ones go in or down to studs or whatever the case is.
Right.
Those shows provide a good sense of some of that behind the scenes stuff.
Well, yeah, and it sparks some interest to call someone like you that can actually do the work.
Yes, and if that brings me business, then then I like those shows.
Yeah,
Right.
they have good imagination, and then the good part is then you're upfront and transparent at how long things take. So that way, it's worth it in the end. And if they know that it's X number of weeks or X number of months or whatever, then they know what to expect.
Exactly, literally from like the first few moments of meeting with a potential client, I try to let them know what they're looking at and what this is all realistically going to be like. And by the way, what is your budget? Are we on the same page?
Yeah, that's important too.
Early on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can imagine in some cases they have a thought in their mind, and then you're going to sit down with them, and you realize into the conversation that, hey, this might be a lot more involved than they think it is, to have that conversation.
And it usually, well, most of the time it is more involved and therefore a little more costly. But when explained to them properly what we're looking at and how we have to bring in all the trades and
Right.
it takes time, then it all pretty much makes sense. And then they realize, okay, well, this is probably worth it.
Right. Yeah, because what they're getting in the end is, so beneficial. So,
Well, now I'm kind of curious that in terms of you probably run into different situations with different people. Some people, once they realize what they want and what the cost is, are some people willing to rise up to what the cost is because it is what they want? Or do you have a lot of people that just all of a sudden start scaling back? Like, well, since, really can only spend this, then let's see where we can cut.
That's a good question. All of the above, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people, if they want it bad enough, they make it happen. And some people, maybe instead of new cabinets, we're painting the cabinets.
Yeah.
What my designer calls refreshers sometimes,
Okay.
instead of a full-fledged down to studs type of remodel. So there's all types, and some people even want more, and they want something that costs more, quartzite instead of quartz. So now the cost is just going to go up. So
Right. Now, you mentioned that you enjoy, or that you prefer kitchens. What is it that you enjoy about kitchens that are different than, say, bathrooms?
that's also a good question. Kitchens are most of the time much easier to access
Okay.
because they're right there, main floor. Bathrooms, they're not. They're usually back down a hallway or upstairs down a hallway. And so when you're thinking about demo and all the, getting cabinets up there, getting a long countertop up there, it's a lot more logistically challenging. And plus, kitchens they're bigger, a little easier to work in. I'd say they're both equally dramatic as far as before and after pictures. And more people are wanting bathrooms. But for ease, kitchens.
Yeah.
Right. And I had a question because one of the big things we see in bathrooms nowadays are people ripping out the tub. Like, in the 90s and such, we had these bathrooms where they're putting these big, huge soaker tubs in, these jacuzzi tubs that people don't use anymore. How often are you going in and they're like, that's what I want. I want this gone, and you're putting these big, huge tile showers in and such.
All the time. Yeah, we're ripping out those big, over-engineered jacuzzis. We're taking them out a lot.
Right.
And usually, for example, the last one we did, they ended up going with a freestanding tub as well as a tiled shower, and this because the bathroom was pretty big.
Right.
We had space, but those take up too much real estate. I mean, if you look at it with all how it's built, it's taking up half the bathroom. So everyone wants those gone.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm seeing so often, we'll go into a house and the jacuzzi tub won't work because there was no access panel put in. And the people are like, well, I never bothered to figure out how to get to that motor or what have you. So now they had this expensive jacuzzi put in that they haven't been able to use in, years.
You guys know all about this. Yes, I can't tell you at least once in the last 6 months that very case happened, and she wanted an estimate to fix it.
Right.
But the same thing, there was no real panel, no real way to get to it. And then she asked, well, what would it cost to just rip the whole thing out? And then that led to possibly redoing the whole bathroom.
Right.
Right. Because I think a lot of it has to do with quality of life. I mean, we have a jacuzzi tub, right? And we use it once or twice a year because I'm like, well, it hasn't been used. I need to use it, right? But you're right. Like, people don't realize how much room that really takes up in the bathroom. And when they're looking at their quality of life and how to use the space, that's where someone like you comes in and says, hey, you have an idea, but I can give you the vision of what this could actually become.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. I don't think most people think about the footprint that it takes and what it could look like if they just had a little freestanding tub there, or got rid of it completely if they don't use the tub ever.
Right.
It just opens things up dramatically.
Yep.
Makes a big difference. And one of the things that seems like people are always looking for is double sinks. But sometimes in these older houses, there's just one sink in the primary bathroom. So is that something that you find people really insist on having two sinks as well? Or
Yeah, I think for the most part, if there's space, then yes, that works. If there, let's say it's a couple and they both pretty much want their own sink, and we got space, then yeah, we'll do that. Maybe we'll do a tower in between. However, sometimes if we're sort of maybe there's space, then but but people want a lot of usable counter
yeah.
space, then one sink's the way to go.
Gotcha.
So it's just a matter of preference.
Right.
Gotcha.
Cool. So, what have some of your, favorite projects you've done? Like, do you have any examples of like, hey, this was really fun to do, or this was dramatic?
Yes, I do. Well, we had a client last winter, and we put in a bathroom in their basement, and then it led to redoing their master or primary bath, and it came out beautiful. My designer did a fabulous job. The tile guy did a fabulous job. It was really good, and it was a big project. It was a big footprint. It required walls coming down, plumbing being moved, electric, the whole deal, basically.
Right.
Looked like a whole different
Totally
thing, right?
different. Oh
Transformation.
yeah, I can't tell you how many compliments we've gotten. Even got a referral from someone who saw it on Facebook.
Cool.
So yeah, that would be one of my favorites. I also like smaller stuff, like some of the walls we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah, accent walls. So we were talking about that before the show started. I'd love to get something on this episode here. Tell us about accent walls and some of the things that you do.
Yeah, well, those are kind of getting popular nowadays. People just want to spruce up a wall, whether it's a board batten or now we're doing, you can go on Instagram and see all sorts of different designs. But it's a quick way of kind of making it a little bit different without having to go through crazy expenses.
Right.
Yeah, it just depends on what the client's looking for. And I also like to do built-in shelving and stuff and laundry rooms. So those are all kind of some of the favorite projects I can think of off the top of my head.
Right, because we're seeing, it used to be that people would go in and they'd paint one wall in a room a different color, right? So that would be their accent wall. So we'd walk in and be like, oh, this wall is red, But now we're seeing more of, like you said, that, they're doing, woodwork on the wall. They're putting something permanent on there that just adds some flair to a room.
Yes, well, so good point. Yep. People still will do an accent wall and paint, but this is like the next level of that. And I found that if the right way to do it is to incorporate, I like to spray instead of brushing and rolling. I like to spray it when it's done. But it just depends on what the client wants, what the designer draws up, and then I just take it from there.
Right.
So you're able to do some of the smaller jobs and not all major complete renovations, like some things.
I do like to mix it up. I mean, it's nice to pull up to someone's house and be there for a month and not have to worry about transporting stuff around. But I also like something smaller where I can bust it out in a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very cool. And we saw on your website that you do custom woodwork as well. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. It's kind of like what we were just talking about. Like if someone wants laundry rooms, cubbies, that type of thing, those are a lot of fun. That's kind of what really piqued my interest when I got into carpentry, was doing a lot of those. And it just so happens that's how it started. I had a couple people who wanted those done, and they came out really nice. And so I try to do those when I can.
That is cool. Yeah, we were just talking about cubbies on a recent show that we did.
Right.
You know, the idea that like when you go into these new custom-built homes nowadays, you're seeing cubbies and you're not seeing a coat closet anymore. And people, they don't go into a closet to hang up their jackets anymore. It's that whole difference in lifestyle and such. And having custom cubbies that like, okay, I have 3 kids, I need 5 cubbies. Have you come in and, have it custom to what the individual needs.
Yeah, for sure. We do that. Some people don't want to look at coats hanging. And so some people will still want a door or whatever the case is. But I'd say for the most part, we're ripping out the old coat closets and doing the bench, the cubbies, some hangers, maybe some cubbies up top.
Right.
Every job's a little bit different.
That makes sense. And since you're talking about the woodworking, I wanted to say thank you so much for this beautiful charcuterie board that you made for us.
Yes.
So
Very cool.
Really amazing.
Yeah, I hope you guys can put it to use.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Sure. That was very, very nice, very thoughtful.
Yeah.
Now,
nice and sturdy too and heavy.
Yeah. which is awesome. It's cool that you have all these different skills and different things that you do. Has there been anything that was sort of an unexpected project, that something that came up, or even something that was more unusual than other projects that you've done?
Well, not recently. Certainly early in my career, there was a lot where I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
I better figure this out pretty quick. But not nowadays. Nothing like crazy unusual. It's all pretty predictable. We have a bathroom. It's going to take 4 weeks, and then we move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and it's funny, you were talking about the basement bathroom that you did, and then it led to this. We talk to our clients sometimes, and it's we don't warn them, but we kind of tell them of like, listen, the whole might as well, or like, be careful what you start, because this leads into this, leads into this. And like, once you start down the path, I'm sure you've seen it with some clients of like, well, I want to do this, just this. Then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like remodeling the entire house here. How did this add up?
That happens. That certainly happens, whether it be by design, because, if we're going to do this, that it directly affects the room below, or whatever the case is, or if the client they're so happy with the way this room has been spruced up that they want us to now do their other room.
Yeah.
So that happens too. That's about to happen. We're starting a big bathroom project Monday, and then we're going to go right into their kitchen when we're done with that.
Right.
It really seems like a chain reaction sometimes.
Yep.
Yes. I wish it was always like that.
Right. Now, are you seeing people put heated floors in their bathrooms still?
Sure. I recommend that more and more because of my own, and I have a small bathroom, but that tile still gets really cold. And if you're going to be spending $50,000 on a bathroom, then spend a little extra and get the heated floor, especially if it's a big floor, especially if you wake up in the middle of the night and you don't want to put on slippers. It makes a huge difference. Huge difference. So I do recommend those. Not everyone does them, but I think we'll start seeing more of it as the cost might come down. We'll see.
Right.
So we did an episode that had so many features of things in the home that you need and you didn't even realize you needed, right? And so I imagine there's a lot of things. So it's good that you're there to recommend these things to the clients, because I'm sure that's something that people probably never thought of.
Right. I mean, let's face it. It's quite the luxury to have heated floors. If you want something really nice and you're willing to go through all this work, then why not go through the extra effort? Because the last thing I want for a client, and I'm sure the last thing a client wants, is to, once the project's over, to be like 98% happy with it. And there'd be that 2% where they're like,
If only, right?
well, it would have been so easy to fix.
Right.
But now it's way too late.
Yeah.
Just go for it all, and then that way there's zero regrets.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because that's the truth. Like when you're looking at bathrooms, you're looking at kitchens or any remodel thing, you use that space enough to know that these are the trigger points of like what you need out of it. If you're getting those things, just like you said, get all of it, right? Because you want to be happy. One of the things, we're going to remodel our kitchen at some point, but like I went from one oven to 2 ovens. I could never go back to one oven again. It's these little things that, like, if you're remodeling a space, get everything you want.
Yeah, that's the time to do it. And yeah, all it takes is a little forethought. In your case, you probably cook a lot. So yeah, that makes total sense. And that would be the time to do it.
Right?
Yeah.
He's a wonderful chef. His homemade lasagna is unreal.
Okay. Good.
But that's the thing. Kitchens, whether you're a man or a woman, these rooms are a critical part of everyday life.
Right. You don't realize how much time you spend. And, we have a friend that they just redid their kitchen. So they didn't have a kitchen for like 6-7 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't realize, they thought they knew how much they use their kitchen and how integral it was to their life. But they didn't realize till they lost it. And now that they have it back, it's like it's a whole new world for them.
Yes. Yes, that happens too. End up using the grill a lot at the time, That does happen. And I think it's this, I know for myself, I'm in the kitchen very often, and so when I redid mine, I tried to take into account my new island space and that type of thing. So yeah, you just gotta give it a little forethought and strike when the iron's hot. You know, if we're taking things down to studs, why not do it exactly like we want?
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yep. And I'm sure with the designer and the discussions you have with your clients and such, a lot of it has to do with lifestyle, right? Like asking them, how do you use the space? So there's an understanding there.
Yeah, my designer, she'll spend quite some time with the clients or potential clients, getting to know what they do, what they want, Pinterest, the whole deal. And there's some back and forth, and eventually they come up with something. And it'll require a little tweaking. We're pretty good about getting to know what they really want.
I'm sure it varies, but what's the time frame like usually between someone calling you up and saying, hey, you know, I want to sit down and I want to gut my kitchen, and we're looking at doing the design, to between that and starting?
Good question. I'd say it varies, but let's just say on average 4 weeks.
Okay.
So if they called and they were serious and we scheduled a meetup soon, I'd say on average, 4 weeks, maybe 6. It depends on cabinets, usually take a while. And then, it just depends. But yeah, I'd say about 4 weeks to properly plan and order and then do all that.
And then you pull permits. So the home owners themselves, they don't need to be pulling all the paperwork or anything like that?
Correct.
Or like, how does that work?
Yeah. Either way, I mean, they can pull them or we can pull them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in terms of what about if there's been, a flood and, basically insurance claims, that kind of thing. Is that sometimes when people look to have some of the renovations done, or?
Yeah, that happens. But typically sometimes those have some deadlines or time frames that may or may not be realistic with where we're at.
Gotcha.
In other words, if, God forbid, your basement flooded and you called us, you obviously want something done like now.
Yeah.
But
and you got to wait in line because other people have.
Yes.
already
So
prescheduled.
I don't do a lot of that, but but I have.
Gotcha.
Right. And I'm sure basement finishes are fun to do because you're basically starting from a clean slate a lot of times with that.
Yes, you're right. It is. It is. I'm framing a basement right now, and right here in Brighton, and it's cool to see the way it's transforming. As the lumber goes up and it's taking shape. It's cool. It's fun. I like to see that. I like to see the before, the during, the after. So sometimes on my post, I'll post like the before pics, or I'm sorry, the during pics. Or some people don't want to see that. That's kind of the grind of the job. But I like to kind of showcase all parts, so
Right.
so people understand what goes into it.
Yeah, no,
Very
that makes
cool.
sense. Great. Now, in terms of the style of stuff, is there anything that you're seeing trends popping up that people, all of a sudden everybody wants?
I'd say some of the colors of cabinets. We've done a little more like blue and green lately, and of course, there's always trending wall colors. Other than that, I would leave that up to my designer to answer as far as like textures and tiles and countertops and that type of thing.
Right.
It just depends.
Yeah, no. And I know, with us in real estate going through houses, it's interesting when you go into houses that you can tell what era it's from. Yeah. You're like, oh, this kitchen was done in the 90s. This kitchen was done in this,
Yep.
Well, and it's kind of funny because sometimes we'll get an older seller and we haven't seen the house and we go there and they're like, oh, no, my kitchen is all updated. Like, oh, okay, great. It's all updated. But it was all updated 30 years ago.
Right.
And people don't realize that it's now pretty outdated.
Yeah. It can be clean and it can still be functioning and look really nice, but it's not, but then again, trends do come back, so it's interesting that like people keep telling me that brass is coming back right now, and I just hope that it's not. But I like the brass there.
I like it.
But like I've
Which
seen
one
like
is-
we'll go into these houses that like it'll have like the bright gold.
Yeah.
Or it'll, I was just in the house last week that still had the baby blue bathroom.
Yeah, still see those. I still see those too much. And yes, we're not really seeing like that bright gold from 1987, but this rose gold.
No, I like the rose gold.
This is coming. This has been pretty popular lately. So
it's warmer.
It is warm.
There's just so many options out there. It just all depends on kind of getting to know the client and what they actually want.
Right, exactly.
But I feel like a lot of times, people are living it and they're in their house and they've wanted that kitchen remod. They've wanted that bathroom update. And the thing is, it starts with a step. So if someone is interested, they're dabbling, they're not sure, do they give you a call and you can come out and do an estimate, talk them through? Like, how does that part of it go?
Absolutely. Yeah. They would contact me and we would set something up to get to meet them, find out a little bit more about what they want, budgets, timeframes, those types of things.
Look at the space, probably.
Yeah. And like I said, my designer would team up with them and get a feel for, what they want, what do they expect, the functionality. There's a lot of different things that you really have to take into account before you can go and just start ordering stuff and put together a plan. So it's kind of a slow back and forth at first, but it would be that simple. They would just get a hold of us and we would we would ease the process of that.
So especially if they didn't want to start for 6 months, say, whether they're getting an equity line or they're figuring out their financing, then at least you're able to do that and, pre-schedule months in advance if that's what it calls for.
In some ways, that might even be best for them because it gives the client some time to really iron out what they want.
Right.
Or especially if it's a couple, because they may not agree.
Yeah,
I want shiplap. No, I want subway tile or whatever the case is. So that's not always a bad thing, having to wait. And it takes time anyway. I mean, just to order like I said earlier, just to get cabinets might be 6 to 8 weeks so it's going to take some time regardless.
Right. So starting earlier is definitely better than starting too late. Of like, for the graduation party, I needed this done. And so start early and get the ball rolling.
I don't recommend that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because people don't understand that, like, you want all these different things in the kitchen or in the bathroom. It's like some of the stuff can come in right away, but it's like, I want this specific thing. Well, that thing might take some time to order and get there, and people don't understand that A has to go to B, has to go to C. So if you're missing B, C, D, and E just aren't happening till it shows up.
Oh, for sure. And this just happened yesterday. My designer, the client wanted a change in tile. For whatever reason, we weren't going to be able to get it in time. My designer had to drive to Canada yesterday to order the tile, just to order it, not to buy it. And then she's going to have to go back to pick it up when it arrives, which will hopefully be in time.
Right.
Wow.
So, there has been some supply line issues, and if someone changes their mind or you got to put change orders in, then that can really throw things off. But we'll make it happen.
Well, and driving to Canada, that's an example of you guys going above and beyond and making sure that you're getting what you need to be able to make the client happy.
Yeah, she's great. That was. I'm glad she was able to do that, and because this is a big project, and we want to keep it on time.
Very cool.
So that's definitely something that makes you guys different, I think. That's definitely a good thing. Is there anything else that makes you different, do you think?
I'd say we're pretty good at articulating what we're going to do and doing what we say we're going to do and finishing on time. Reliability is key. Yeah. I'd say that's what's gotten us referrals.
That is awesome because you always hear those horror stories of like they told me it was going to be 4 weeks and I haven't had a kitchen in 3 months, right? So having timelines that you're adhering to and you're keeping up with your clients.
That's huge. Yeah, that's huge. And we've gotten pretty good at estimating times.
Good.
Gotcha. And are referrals from past clients one of your main sources of the jobs you get?
It's a good portion of it, luckily.
Well, and in terms of a business model, that's always a better person to recommend than someone that gets all their business from advertising, right?
Of course.
It's night and day difference.
It's night and day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I go into a potential client's home who, let's say their sister recommended me, there's already an element of trust from both ways,
Right.
not just from them, but now I feel like I can kind of know them too.
So
Right.
you feel more comfortable and
Right.
be able to.
And then they're able to say, I want that of what you did at the last house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you have a great website, so we were on that and such, being able to go to the website and kind of get an idea of what you do and everything. And, there's your contact information and all that kind of stuff on there as well, which was great.
Yeah, but we'll have some things in the show notes, but how can people reach out to you? Like, what's the best way to find out more?
Well, basically, social media, so Instagram, HH Renovations 23, and my Facebook, which is HH Renovations, or like you said, the website. Those would be the best ways to get hold of me.
Great. Awesome.
Wonderful.
Well, this has been really helpful to get to know you and your company. And now, how did you end up naming it HH, by the way?
That's a good question, too. So I mentioned earlier when I was doing the handyman business, I was living in Howell, and my business name was Howell's Handiest. And I had this logo, the HH was my logo.
Yeah.
So when I rebranded, I wanted to keep that HH,
Yeah.
but I wanted to make it known that we're focusing on renovations. And so that's where it came from.
Neat.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Good history.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming in today. Like Angela said, it's been great learning about you. For everyone out there, please check out HH Renovations on, Instagram, Facebook, go to their website. That's all in the show notes to be able to contact him, have him come out, check out the space that you're looking to renovate and, create something new in your house.
Yeah. If you get started early, that gives you your information. And then if it is a bigger job than you think, better to have more time and have started earlier than to crunch the time. That, Bentley, you've been a great guy and awesome to be able to have a good conversation with. And, I think there's people out there that really have renovations that maybe this could be the year that they dive in.
Yeah,
right?
2025 is the year.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for having me. This has been great.
Well, thank you
Really
so much.
appreciate it.
So great. Thanks
Cool.
for taking the time.
Well, thanks everybody for listening today, and welcome to Livingston.